Sebastian, one of the things that has really interested me about your career is that you have had a lot of success from working in many different countries with defense opportunities and even the political side of things. So one of the questions that I have for you specifically about mindset is, what kind of mindset does it take to have all these doors open for you in this political process and arenas where there is intense scrutiny?
Well, it's very simple. There's a phrase in Hungarian, ember tervez, Isten végrehajt, which means man plans, but God actually implements. So you can think that you're going to build your career and you're going to engineer your way to some form of success in a given arena. But planning, you've got to understand that the hubristic elements of thinking you are a master of your own fate. At the end of the day, God will decide, and God has a plan for you. So I think trying to understand your position and role in God's universe is prerequisite number one. And to allow the good Lord to open doors for you and exploit the opportunities he provides you.
Yeah. Well, and not just that, but you also have to be desirable. You have to, with your mindset, your actions, your abilities, your skill sets. So what in your life has helped you to build the characteristics of things that people want when they choose you to work for them in such prominent places?
I'm not really interested in what other people want. That way lies a failure and yourself as a second-class citizen who's simply there to please others. There's a far better way of looking at a career or your utility and the way that you exploit your God-given talents. And that's, look, you've got to love what you do. You've got to have an absolute passion for what you do. As a kid, like all young boys, I wanted to play soldiers. I loved my G.I. Joe. I had a passion for things military. In college, literally on a dare, as a long-haired philosophy and theology student, I participated in a selection course for a British military intelligence unit of the reserves, and I loved it. And then I cut my hair. I played at that for the longest time, and now I get paid to do a job I would pay to do now that I have a national radio show. I've been listening to radio since I was 7 years old, listening to talk radio on a little crappy transistor radio under my pillow in the middle of the night. So if you have a passion for something, and my advice to you is you've got to turn that into something that pays the rent, because if you do, you'll never work a day in your life. You will be paid for doing your hobby and things that you love anyway.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. Just for any area of life. There's this Bible verse, and I'm going to butcher this, but if you know it verbatim, but it talks about how God will place you before kings and kingdoms. I believe it's in Proverbs somewhere, where your gifts will make room for you in front of these men. And for you, that has happened. You have been in the room with some of the most powerful people in the world. And I'm curious what your thought process is like going into meetings like that, and what it takes to have conversations and the mindset, and to be in a position where, like, you know what, we want your advice. We want to hear from you and what you have to say, because you command a specific amount of respect.
You've got to believe in yourself, number one, that goes without saying, and not be an ass about it. And secondly, you've got to realize whoever it is, they're just a human being. Yeah. I mean, yes, I've been in the Oval Office by myself with the most powerful man in the world who could launch a nuclear war within a matter of minutes with a nuclear football that's never less than 30 feet away from his body. but at the end of the day, Donald Trump entered the world the way I entered the world, and he's going to leave the world I entered the world, the way I entered the world. He is another human being. So I know it's tough, especially when you're young and you're at the bottom of the ladder of your career. But you've got to understand that we are all fallen human beings. And if you believe that, yes, I do know something, I have an expertise in a given field, I have a talent to lead people or to understand a specific issue, God commands us very clearly that talent is from him and it should be used, not in an arrogant fashion, but for the betterment of our fellow man, not to create some paradise on earth, because there is no such thing as paradise on earth. The only paradise is the Lord's kingdom. But if we have that talent, we should use it to the betterment of those around us. And just remember, everybody's as fallen and as much a simple human being as the next man or woman.
You know, you were saying how you've been in the Oval Office with President Trump alone. And, you know, being an American boy growing up, I've always had this idea like, well, I wonder what it would be like to be president. You know, we all kind of toy with that idea for fun. And I'm really curious, what is the mindset of a president from what you've experienced firsthand and other influential leaders? I mean, I guess technically it doesn't take a strong mindset nowadays to be president, but from the past, what are some of the key traits and habits that you've picked up on that have made someone so strong, so powerful, and influential?
Well, first, I'd like to clarify something. What do you mean by mindset? How are you using that word?
Yeah, so mindset, when I think of someone's mindset, I'm thinking the habits that go into their lives. I'm thinking of their perspectives in terms of how they view their communication skills, how they view life in general, and the way that they want to connect, as well as when people think of mindset, I'm also assuming that people look at the only way I can describe it, the character that goes into tough decisions and the strength behind it.
Well, I don't think there's any specific taxonomy for the quote unquote presidential mindset, because we've had, lecherous old men who have sex with 21-year-old interns like Bill Clinton as the president. We've got a senile old man who literally doesn't know what day of the week it is in the White House, who's the president right now. So there's no magic formula or mindset. We are a republic, and we choose our presidents, and it's not a dictatorship. And as a Hungarian aristocrat once said, every nation deserves the leaders they elect. That's the sad truth of the system we live in. What it should be, and what I witnessed with President Trump, are a couple of things. So I was in the Oval Office one day, there on a completely different issue. It was just me and the president. I think I was there to discuss the Iran deal or some facet of national security to do with the Middle East. And out of the blue, North Korea came to mind. Kim was threatening, was jangling his rusty saber. And the president just suddenly looked at me and said, I'm really not willing. I really don't want to go to war again on the Korean Peninsula. And it was an incredibly serious statement. So, number one, the prerequisite, I don't know, I don't like the word mindset. I think it's rather artificial. But perhaps the most important prerequisite is to understand the enormity of the office and the responsibility you have. And over time, my time in the White House, I realized the remarkable thing about President Trump is he did what he did because he loves the country. And everything he did was driven by two requirements. He wants all Americans to be safe, and he wants all Americans and their families to prosper. And that's what he did for us. I mean, the 4 years of the Trump presidency were incredible, from crushing the physical caliphate of ISIS to seeing the lowest unemployment since the 1960s and lowest unemployment for blacks and Hispanics since record keeping began. Ford bringing its plants back to America, the highest median income increase in a median income for more than a decade. So just incredible feats, which were accomplished because that's what he wanted. And he wanted that, and this is what the left will never understand. He wanted that safety and prosperity, whether or not you voted for him. That was a remarkable thing about President Trump. He didn't feel any animus to people who voted for Hillary Clinton, one of the most corrupt politicians in world history. If you're an American, he wanted you to be safe and to prosper. The one other thing, given what the left has become and how radicalized the Democrats have become, they have so internalized Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals and made the politics of personal destruction a cornerstone of how they deal with anyone who disagrees with them, whether it's Dave Chappelle or whether it's President Trump. The one thing and I lived through this. I mean, I was attacked, and that's fine, but they attacked my wife, they attacked my teenage son in the media. The other thing that is absolutely non-negotiable, and this is remarkable in the case of President Trump, is you really cannot care the costs that the left will bring to bear on you and your family in terms of smears, lies, libels, and just the propaganda of political destruction that the left has put in its quiver. So you've got to love America. You've got to want Americans to be safe and to prosper. And you can't give a damn what the haters are going to say.
So you talked about the idea behind political destruction. And I'm so curious because it's not just, like you said, President Trump, Dave Chappelle. It's now turning into a guy who baked cakes for a living. It turns into, business owners who don't want to do vaccine mandates. So how do we as Christians or as conservatives stand up in these times and places versus cowering and just not doing anything? How do we have that strong, dare I say, mindset again to build that up so that in the face of adversity, we'll walk through it?
Well, I'm not trying to be trite here, but it's very easy. You open the Bible and you read the founding documents of this republic. I mean, look at the founding documents. What did the founding fathers do? They actually said they pledged their treasure, they pledged their lives, and they pledged their sacred honor to establish America.
Yeah.
So you're worried about having your Facebook page canceled? Seriously? And open the New Testament. Well, what is the essence of Christianity? It's one thing. It's sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's the fact that God sent his only son who willingly died through a method of torture, crucifixion, one of the most evil methods to kill a human being, because basically you drown in your own human bodily fluids as you can't breathe as you are nailed to a tree. He did that willingly for us to take our sins upon ourselves. And what? We're afraid to lose our jobs? Really? Then go and live in Venezuela. Go and live in Cuba. If you so besmirch the legacy, the heritage of not only our republic, but also our civilization, there's no other word for you but a coward. And I know it sounds harsh, but basically it is. It is a statement of fact. If you aren't prepared to suffer just a little bit in comparison to our founding fathers and our Lord and Savior, you know what? You're not really American.
Ain't that the truth? I'm really glad you brought this direction up in terms of founding. So many people nowadays think that America was founded maybe just on Christian principles. But I believe, and I believe you believe, that we were found as a Christian nation and that we've moved away from that. And so, how do we go back and change that direction? I personally don't think it's going to happen, end time revelation, Antichrist, all that stuff. But what would we have to do, in your opinion, to start turning that tide to make America a Christian nation again?
Very easy. Every single one of us, everybody listening to this show, everybody who lives in America has to live by the truth. That's all you have to do. It's very simple. It's one of the shortest phrases in the Bible, but perhaps it's one of the most powerful. The truth will set you free.
Yeah.
It will set you free, truly. If you cleave to the truth every single day, if you never bite your tongue in public or on social media, if you never, catch yourself saying, ooh, I better not say that because my liberal neighbor or my Biden supporting boss is going to go crazy. If you don't do that, we'll be fine. And we will save this nation. We will save this nation. You cannot censor yourself. You must tell the truth. It's not the Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle's not going to save America. Dave Chappelle will be a catalyst. And let's look at that. Let's look at Dave Chappelle. I didn't know who Dave Chappelle was until his first Netflix special. And I watched it and I said, not my style, pretty foul-mouthed, but heck, that's comic genius. I mean, he's up there on the, the level of, especially his second show, he's kind of like close to the Peter Sellers level of comic genius. And why do they hate him now? Well, why has the perverse LGBT radical feminist community gone after him? Not because of his jokes, not because he makes fun of homosexuals. Well, no. They went after him because of Daphne Dorman. The power of his show, the last show, has nothing to do with the comedy. The comedy's funny. The power of his show is the tragic, heart-wrenching story at the end about this man who thought he was a woman, thought he could be a stand-up comedian. Chappelle sees this person totally bomb at a comedy club, but connects with him, her, right? A guy wearing a skirt, connects with Daphne after the show, finds out that he's actually a very funny guy, not good at stand-up, but a very funny guy, and invites Daphne to open for him, okay? So becomes, the mentor to this protege of a struggling comedian, who then, what happens? The left, the crazies, the radicals, the hardcore LGBT transgender activists go after Daphne Dorman on social media because he dares to protect and dares to say Chappelle's not a homophobe, Chappelle's not a hater, he's just a comedian. Daphne stands up for Chappelle, and they just unleash the hounds of hell against Daphne, and 6 days later, she jumps off a building. That's why they hate Chappelle, because that story of how the tolerant trans gay community so hounded a transgender man to his death, he has shown them, Dave Chappelle has shown them up for who they are. They're killers. They're extremists. They're radicals. And that's why they want to take him down. And Dave Chappelle's import isn't just, God bless him, telling that story. It's what he's done in the last few days, which is to say, I don't care what Netflix does. I ain't backing down. And it's rule number one. It's Dr. G's rule number one. You never apologize to the mob. The mob is never going to say, we like Dave Chappelle or we like Dr. G. The mob are extremists. They want us dead. Literally, they want us dead. Go on social media. Read the comments on one of my posts from the left. They want me dead because I politically disagree with them. That's the fact of the matter. So if we cleave to the truth, if we use David Chappelle as an example of how you never bow to the mob, we'll be fine. We will take back America.
You know, you talked about how the left wants you dead, and not just you, but in general, conservative Christian values, anything that opposes their beliefs and ideology. And we've entered the society of objective truth, in that if you have objective truth, it is the moral high ground, and anything other than objective truth is wrong. Like I saw a video yesterday where it was racist to say 4 was equal from 2 plus 2. Because if it's against my objective truth, that is racist because I'm a black, or I'm a transgender, or I'm a. So what you're saying, and what I'm hearing you say, is all we can do is stand up for the truth, take a little persecution, be okay with that, and just continue to keep going. And like you said, with Trump, not care how they come after you, and just keep willing to go forth through it.
Yeah. I look, if the word true and truth doesn't have any meaning, doesn't have any content, if you're not prepared to stand up for it. The idea that, 2 plus 2 equals 4 is racist because it's a construct of a colonial system where excellence is promoted. Well, guess what? Get on an airplane where the pilot doesn't believe 2 plus 2 equals 4, and tell me if you're prepared to ride on a plane where they don't believe in math and science, okay? You said it's all we need to do. It is everything. I mean, we can spend hours on this, but if you read my book, The War for America's Soul, I chart how we got here. It's chapter 6. It was inspired by the amazing book, Andrew Breitbart's autobiography, Righteous Indignation, where he charts where the new left comes from. I use that as a basis. And in my book, The War for America's Soul, I give you chapter and verse. I give you the names, the dates, the organizations. It's not. This didn't start with Barack Obama. This didn't start with Biden. This is a 90-year-old project. I mean, if you go back to the history, a crippled communist called Antonio Gramsci in a prison cell in Mussolini's Italy understood that communism, Marxism, cannot function, will never be successful in civilized Western nations where there is a strong middle class that believes in God. It can only, be brought to a revolutionary crescendo in backward nations that are full of feudal peasants, like communist China in 1948 or Tsarist Russia in 1917, where there's a lumpen proletariat or a feudal peasantry that doesn't resist. In countries where there is a strong Judeo-Christian tradition with a stable middle class, people are going to see through this crap. So what did he say? He said, well, in that case, you can't have revolutions on the street of England, Italy, or America. What you do is you take over the culture. You take over the institutions from the inside. You don't become a revolutionary. You subvert institutions from the inside. That's how we have schools not far from where I'm sitting, where the library books are graphic novels of pedophilic sex, pictures of men having oral sex with little boys. And that wasn't just approved by a publishing house. That was approved by the local education board in Virginia. There is a connective tissue between Antonio Gramsci and the Loudoun County, Fairfax County. The fact that a boy wearing a skirt rapes a 15-year-old in a restroom, and then it gets covered up, he gets shunted off to another school by the school board to rape again, and then they deny it at the school board meeting. And the father of the 15-year-old, he's the guy who gets arrested. Yep. That goes right back. This is the denial of truth. The boy wearing a skirt isn't a girl. He's wearing a skirt so he can rape a real girl in the toilets of that school. So You say it's the only thing we have. It's all we have to do. It is the thing we have to do. We have to stand up for the truth, because this is a project that's been going on for 90 years, from Gramsci to Adorno to Marcuse to Alinsky, all the way up to critical race theory today, to Terry McAuliffe, to the Virginia school boards. And it's time we woke up. It's time conservatives, it's time that people, look, I want to stop at this point because I'm going to be ranting. What is a Christian church? I'm a Catholic, born and bred, but what has a Christian church done for Christianity in the last 20 years? I mean, how many priests, bishops, pastors, ministers have you heard give a Sunday sermon about ISIS burning Christians alive, about ISIS running sex slave camps in the Middle East? Or how many preachers have spoken about the fact that Planned Parenthood sold the organs of aborted fetuses, of babies, and made money out of them? Where is the Catholic Church? Where is the Calvinist, Methodist, Episcopal, Baptist Church today? This is a crisis. And what, a Catholic school mom has to be the one who shows the pictures of the pedophilic porn? Why isn't that a cardinal? Why isn't that a pastor? Wake up, America.
In terms of decision-making with our politicians, and we can use this new spending bill as an example, but it just goes beyond the spending bill. Do they really believe that this is good for America, some of the decisions that they're making, or do they know it's actually bad, but they are wanting its destruction and they don't care about consequences?
You're starting from the wrong viewpoint. They hate America. That's all you need to know. There's no grand conspiracy. It came to me about 2 weeks ago. I was thinking about why do they hate my old boss so much? Why do people, so detest President Trump? I mean, he made us safe and he made us prosperous. So why do you hate him? And I realized there's a weird corollary with those who hate President Trump. Everybody who hates my old boss, everyone, also hates America. Now, isn't that interesting? So when Obama says days before the inauguration, we are days away from the fundamental transformation of America, he meant it. Why? Because for him, for Biden, for Kamala, for AOC, for Nancy, for Schumer, for all of them, America is the problem. America has to be reconstructed in their image. They're playing God with America. They think America is, they truly believe America is racist. America is colonial. America oppresses. Obama, I mean, this is mind-boggling. They showed an interview 2 days ago with Obama and Bruce Springsteen. And these are the guys who are standing up for the working man as they're jetting around the world in their private jets. And they talk about, Obama says this on camera about Clarence, Bruce Springsteen's saxophonist, this massive black guy who's an amazing saxophone player. And Obama says this, as Springsteen agrees. He says, that Clarence, your listeners, your fans love him when he's on stage with you. But if they saw him in a bar, immediately the N-word would fly. Springsteen, who is a multi-millionaire because of the people in the audience, says, yeah, that's right. And Obama believes that white people will use the N-word if they see a black man in a bar. I tell you, that America does not exist. It does not exist. Sure, there are racists, but the idea that because you're black, a white man has to call you the N-word, that's how much they don't understand America, and that's how much they hate America. And this, the cherry on top, from a man who became the president while he's black.
Yeah. So if they so hate America and want the destruction of America, What do you think caused that philosophy in them?
It's not a question. You got to read Breitbart's book or read my book. So it starts with World War One. It starts with the loss of a generation. It starts with the rise of nihilism and Freud. The idea that how do you explain, the crop of Europe was killed in the battlefields of Verdun. There's an incapacity for people to understand that. And then along come the philosophers and the psychoanalytic hacks who say, well, you know what? God is dead. There is no such thing as religion. A man can perfect his fellow man. We can create perfection on earth. That is socialism. And if you read what Marx did to Hegel, the materialist dialectic, you understand what they're doing is they're trying to engineer perfection on earth, which is a lie, which is impossible. And only the elite can do that. The elite knows what perfection is. So the state has to be given more and more power. And at the end of the day, it drives to this nihilistic endpoint where truth has to be negated. I mean, the whole deconstructionist phenomena, if you look at Sartre, if you look at the literature of the 1950s and 60s, if you look at modern art, if you look at modern music, the cacophony of modern music, all of it is posited on the fact that objective truth, the concept of objective truth is oppressive, is a mark of the patriarchy. Therefore, you must deconstruct it. You must dismantle everything because the order we live in is wrong. It's really anarchic. It's really, it leads to chaos, but it goes back to World War I and the consequences of what was deemed the Great War. And then it becomes a philosophy that everything that the West represented, excellence, meritocracy, belief in an objective truth, that's bad. And that must be deconstructed. And then you tie it in a bow when you understand it's very easy. Why do they hate America? It's very simple. Because America is the apotheosis of Western civilization. I mean, there is no nation that is more Judeo-Christian than America. I'm sorry, there isn't. I mean, that's a factual statement. There is no nation on God's earth that is more emblematic of Western civilization. Therefore, everybody who believes in Noam Chomsky and Saul Alinsky must be dedicated to dismantling the pinnacle of Western civilization.
Sebastian, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can people find you and follow you at?
The easiest thing is the website, sebgorka.com. That's SEBGORKA, sebgorka.com, where you can find details about my daily national radio show, America First. Then I have a weekly show on Newsmax. You can download the Newsmax app, watch it for free. It's called the Gorka Reality Check every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, just look for Seb Gorka or Sebastian Gorka, and then check out my latest book, The War for America's Soul.
Awesome. Sebastian, thank you so much for coming on today. Have a great day.